I'm Bridget Green.
And I'm Cavin Weber.
And on this episode of The Bring Up, we're going to show you how AI actually works.
And maybe build our own AI model right here on the show?
I guess you'll have to watch to find out.
It's a lot of leaves, Bridget.
I heard you want to talk about technology. You don't have to twist my arm too hard on that topic.
Should I leave?
Are you looking for secrets?
Bring up.
Bridget, she's dead. You may not like it, but this is what peak performance looks like.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Bring Up. We've covered dozens of topics on the show over the years, but today's is perhaps the biggest and most complicated yet, Cavin.
That's right. We're covering the incredible science that is artificial intelligence, something no one's talking about at all and definitely not mentioning in every sentence.
Yes, it is kind of all that anyone, at least in our sphere, can talk about, but we're going to show you it in a way we guarantee you haven't seen before. Because even with all the conversation around AI, we realized that we didn't really know how it works. Like, really, what is happening under the hood when you use a machine learning model.
And I think we found a way to demonstrate just that.
So buckle up, everyone. This is gonna be fun.
The most important thing to understand is that AI, like anything you do on a computer, is just a math problem, but like a really big one.
That's right. Every AI workload is going to require some amount of processing. So a small, lightweight chatbot, for example, might need something like 1 trillion math operations per word generated. Generating a medium-sized image might need 100 trillion operations or more.
But what is all that math actually used for? To get a better idea of how AI actually works, let's ask our new friend Computey, the AM486 basic desktop computer that's been plugged in a storage closet since the late 1900s and has since gained sentience. Take it away, Computey.
When humans say AI, they usually mean machine learning. Machine learning is the process of creating a series of interconnected matrices, or grids of numbers, stacked in layers. This stack has an input side and an output side. Think of it like a Pachinko machine, where the matrix layers are the pegs, and based on their shape and position, the balls that you input will land in different spots in the output. Cavin, what does it feel like to love?
Thanks, Computey.
A pachinko machine is a pretty good analogy and a medium good arcade game, but I feel like we're still missing part of the story.
That's true. Computey described a series of matrices, but how do you decide what numbers to put in those matrices?
If you've ever heard of the terms training and inference, that's what it's referring to. If you've interacted with AI, chances are you've mostly been doing inference. Inference means using a machine learning model that has already been made, and that's the pachinko machine effect. Giving an input, the question that you're asking the AI agent, and receiving an output, whatever the agent responds with.
Training, on the other hand, is the process of adjusting the way that data flows through each layer in order to get the desired output. In the very earliest machine learning attempts, scientists used physical machines with motors that would manually tune the knobs of variable resistors in order to train a machine to tell the difference between two input shapes.
The machine he's referring to, the Mark I Perceptron, had 400 input pixels and over 500 variable resistors acting as the pachinko pegs. They trained it by showing it one of two cards with a letter printed on it, say an X and an E. If it guesses right, it made no change. If it guesses wrong, it twisted the knob just a little bit in the direction that would have made the guess right.
After repeating this process many times, the Perceptron could tell the difference between two input shapes pretty reliably, but at the time it was basically magic.
Differentiating between two shapes was about as far as the experiment ever got, but clearly modern AI models can do more than just tell E from X. So, what's going on behind the scenes of a more advanced model?
Well, what if, Bridget, and hear me out, there was a Perceptron with multiple layers? A multi-layer Perceptron, if you will. I think that perhaps...
Cavin, I know that you built a multi-layer Perceptron because I greenlit it in the budget, so are you doing this for me?
And so I have, Bridget.
And guess I'm
For too long, we've been suppressed by the tyranny of the single-layer Perceptron, but no more with my new invention, machine learning using multiple layers.
Pretty sure they invented that like 50 years ago.
What you see here is a demonstration of a real working AI model designed to recognize handwritten numerals 0 through 9 inclusive. This is powered by the AMD Kria KV260 development board, which features the powerful AMD Zynq UltraScale Plus MPSoC, a robust computer vision and industrial design platform. We actually used the same board in a previous episode, if you want to check that out as well. Remember when we talked about the Pachinko game effect that AI models have? Well, that's exactly what you're seeing here. The input, the top where the balls would trickle down, is actually this touch screen. It has a 28 by 28 grid that you can draw in by hand. The first row of LEDs represents the first hidden layer, which is what makes this model a multi-layer perceptron and sets it apart from the Mark I Perceptron we discussed earlier. The secret to an AI model meaningfully interpreting data is these hidden layers, and that's what this demo is exposing. Normally, you'd never be able to see this in action, it would just be numbers inside of a chip, but these LEDs are a representation of the nodes, or the Pachinko pegs, from our analogy earlier, in each layer, which shows visually how the model understands your data. The first layer takes in the grid from this touchscreen and has the most basic understanding of the pixels being input. For example, these few nodes might be representative of the fact that there's no pixels in the top left, or these few nodes might say, hey, there's a line at the bottom of the screen. It's sort of doing a first pass at analyzing the pattern so that the second layer doesn't have to take in as much information. The second layer takes it a step further. It'll say, hey, there's maybe a curve and a line together, or that there's no two lines that are crossing one another. That's interesting. And as it funnels down through these layers, the model gains more and more understanding of the input and refines the information to the output. As I draw, the AI model will give us a confidence rating of how likely it thinks that I've drawn a given number. Here it's showing that it's relatively unsure what I've drawn. Maybe it's a 8, or maybe it's a 2, it just doesn't really know. If I reset though, and I begin drawing a 3, you can see that all these lights slowly update and it settles on it being a 3. Numeral recognition is actually a pretty good problem for machine learning to solve, because even with just a 28 by 28 grid as the input, that still makes the total number of possible inputs unfathomably high. And by teaching a computer to understand patterns instead of just seeing pixels, you can do some unbelievable things. Oh, hey Bridget.
So, what does this have to do with you and the way that you interact with AI? This amazing Kria device is running all kinds of real-world machine learning applications today, like food defect detection or spotting abnormalities in cancer imagery, really important stuff, and it's all trained basically the same way as this. Teach the AI with as many inputs as you can, and it will get better and better at organizing and making sense of your data. One thing that I thought was really interesting about the demo is you may have noticed that the LEDs were flickering sort of seemingly randomly when they were interpreting the data, which isn't unlike the way that your brain would be intaking something and trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, exactly. If you looked at a bunch of neurons firing in your brain, it would look pretty chaotic too. But that's just the unique feature of what happens when systems learn to think.
It's beautiful.
I also want to add that it only took me like a couple days to figure out how to train this model, and I don't know what I'm doing. So if you're excited by this and have ideas, check out the KV260 ecosystem.
We hope that this episode has helped you understand what's going on under the hood the next time that you're putting AI to use.
And if you've got ideas for AI use cases you'd like us to explore on the Bring Up, drop us a comment and don't forget to input the like and subscribe buttons on YouTube so you never miss a future output.
As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Not that anyone asked, but I am also able to distinguish many different numbers from each other. That's a 5. This is a 3. This is a backwards 7. And I bet that Perceptron can't identify 1,000, 2 million, 3 billion, 28, which is my favorite number for some reason. Just has a good speaker feel. 777, 778, 779, 770, 80. Nope, that's not right.